Good morning, good afternoon. Lovely to see you again. Today I'm joined by Mukhtar Kadiri from Toronto in Canada to talk once again about AI in project management. I'm Lloyd Skinner. I'm the CEO of Greyfly.ai. Mukhtar, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Lloyd.
Excellent. Mukhtar, would you like just to introduce yourself and tell us your background about projects and project management?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to the podcast. So, my name is Mukhtar, and I have been in project program management for most of my career. So, I've been in several industries. So, I worked in oil and gas, and then in healthcare, and in commercial real estate, and also in tech. And I guess within those industries, I was sort of in the tech subsector of those industries. So, usually working with technologies, and I've worked on various projects. It could be infrastructure projects, it could be process improvement projects, and projects that range all the way up to hundreds of millions of dollars. I've led teams, across various geographies, teams that did recurring revenues of millions of dollars as well. So yeah, that's so I guess in a nutshell, my project experience or my project management experience is um, in the individual contributor space, within project program management, and also in the leadership space as well. Um, yeah, so I guess and now
Yeah.
I'm a job search coach for PM specifically. So I help people land PM jobs, whether they are existing PMs that are looking to for their next opportunity or looking to level up, or the people that are not officially PMs but are looking to make that transition. So that's my focus right now. So yeah, that's
Fantastic.
that's me. Yeah.
Fantastic. I look forward to hearing your views about AI in project management and perhaps how, if we had the advent of AI tools, how maybe those work roles might be a little bit easier. So let's dive in and understand what your views are about AI in project management. From your
Sure.
perspective, what is it and why could it benefit us?
Yeah, so I think I, I think that the way I would look at this is that there are several types of work that AI can help with, right? And I'm just going to break that down into three. So there's at the very bottom there is the, I guess, grunt work, the work that we don't really like doing. So for example, like rearranging schedules, or sending out maybe the same type of emails to a lot of people, right? So to me, I call that like just grunt work. So that's stuff that AI can really help with. Or some people might call that automation and not AI, but one example could be this happened. I'm sure many PMs will be able to relate to this. So you sort of worked out your schedule for the month, right? And then all of a sudden this town hall gets dropped in your calendar, in a few days, and then everybody's schedule is like the whole department, like in the hundreds, right? So instead of you manually just doing that, imagine just having AI just automatically optimize the calendars of 600 to 1,000 people, right? So I think that annoying work, a lot of that can just be given over to AI. So that's the grunt work level. Then the
Mm-mm-mm.
level above, I'm just going to call that just intelligent work, right? So this is work that we do as, for example, looking at risks, or just doing some prediction work. So based on the changing dynamics of the project right now, so where do we think the project is going to land, right? Based on historical knowledge, how long do we think this task is going to take, right? So or just coming up with how long the project would take and the budget, so that we can go request the budget. So this is what I call intelligent work, and it requires a PM with experience, or at least um, you know, teammates with experience to be able to do that. So that's that level. And then there's the level above, which I'm just calling super intelligent work. super intelligent work. So I think that this is now like the mind-blowing stuff. Like, so for example, and of course we're dreaming here. So being able to, like, for example, maybe I speak Italian
Mhm.
and you speak Arabic, for example.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and we are both comfortable. I mean, Italian is my native tongue, Arabic is your native tongue, and we are most comfortable in that language. So instead of us speaking a language where we would have to um, compromise in terms of our eloquence, we can just really just stick to our native tongue, and then we're speaking to each other in real time. But the AI is just translating it in real time, and we're having our conversations in our individual native languages. But yet we're still having that conversation across, across cultures, across geographies, etc. So I think that would be. I mean, right now AI does I guess a decent to a good job in terms of translating. Like the other day, I have a client who's Spanish speaking and is in Latin America. And then there was this job description in Spanish, and he sent it to me like, "Hey, I've done my resume." And I was like, I mean, I don't speak Spanish. So I just copied all of that, put it in ChatGPT and translated it. And I sent it to him
Yeah.
like, is this a good translation? Because he's bilingual. It was like, yeah, that's pretty good. So imagine that capability happening in real time on a live call, right? So this is what I'm calling like super intelligent, in the super
Yeah.
intelligent category.
Yeah.
And another one could be, just before you even venture on a project, like to be able to say with a high degree of certainty, like this 3-year, $5 billion project with 500,000 stakeholders, the success rate of this project is maybe an 85% with a 90 something degree accuracy. Like, so, and then being able to back it up with evidence and, based on consuming historical data from across industries and all of that. Like, to me, I'm thinking like this is going to fall in that third bucket of super intelligent work. So this is sort of just how I think
Yeah.
about it like this.
I think it's the first time I've heard those categorizations. I would probably change grunt to administrative, but I think it's a great classification you've come up there with. And if I may, I'm just going to jump on a couple of points that you said. I was really taken with your point about the super intelligent level and the translation level. I guess what I was thinking about was beyond language and, things like influencing and decision making and those sort of softer skills that, for me really allows us to work out who the good project managers are versus the great project managers. It says much
Mhm.
about people. Do you think that AI will be able to replace or supplement some of that angle at all?
Yeah, no, it's interesting you mentioned influencing. So another example that I thought of is sentiment analysis, right? So maybe you are embarking on a change management initiative, right? And a lot of times what will happen is that, so the change management cycle, like, there's always going to be resistance, but sometimes you can actually prevent some of the backlash, because sometimes if you're not careful, like, you can just build up and just it results in this huge backlash, and then you're now doing damage control. So imagine a world whereby AI is sort of listening to all your Slack messages, emails, your note takers on your Zoom calls, like all of this. We're just really, the AI is um, parsing all of this, and on a week by week basis, it's giving you a sentiment score, maybe a sentiment score with your stakeholders, a sentiment score with your project team, and then you can now be more proactive when you see it trending, this way. Because I think right now the way as PMs we deal with it is really being in the room, just reading the room, or going in
Yeah.
one-on-ones, and so all of, I mean, that's good, but I I think it would be nice to have something more systematic where it's like, all right, it's really analyzing all the I guess digital inputs, right? Because people
Yeah.
send emails, people send Slack messages, even analyzing just other things and actually meetings, right? So and then giving you a sentiment score. So I think that it can really help in that influence, category, because yeah, like sentiment analysis, helps you
Yeah, I love
influence.
what you're talking about there, to be honest. And for me, that's almost beyond sentiment as well. It's helping you guide your conversations, and maybe that's through prompting what to do next. Maybe it's supporting you, again, maybe like a good leader. Sometimes it encourages you. Sometimes it, points out the obvious, maybe too objectively sometimes. So almost like a guide bringing you forward. Is that the sort of sentiment that you're considering there?
Yeah. So it's more of a yeah, I think you said it right. It's more of a guide that you consult, to help you with, I guess, making decisions,
Yeah.
or deciding um how you want to take things forward with the
Yeah,
project. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I definitely think this is where we'll end up, and I think we're already starting to see touches of that with, suggestions this week and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, this linking AI together, and there's a big debate in AI land about, can it replace the human brain? And certainly from what I read and what I can
Mhm.
consider, I think that's inevitable. So I think I think it's called AGI, so artificial general intelligence. I think it's inevitable. I think it's more of a question of when that guidance that you're talking about, and certainly to have that super intelligent a mentor on your shoulder, I think is fantastic. But of course, that might be a bit scary and might even put people out of a job. So for example, if you were helping people guide getting jobs, can you imagine your role that you're doing there, being
Mhm.
supported by AI as well,
Mhm.
because it is a mentoring type role, that other hat you've got there, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and even you can see that right now. I mean, even if like ChatGPT is still, um, I mean, if ChatGPT has been amazing, and I think it's really um, been at the root of this new AI craze.
Yes.
But ChatGPT is at its worst right now, right? Imagine the technology will get a lot better in 10 years.
Totally.
So even ChatGPT, as rudimentary, quote unquote, rudimentary as it is right now, it's already doing some of that. Like, for example, if you have an offer, you can actually just dump your offer in ChatGPT and say, give me suggestions to negotiate. And it will
Yeah.
give you tips, right? It would even help you with crafting the email, and you can even nudge it and prompt it. Okay, I want to take a more aggressive stance, or
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
think are
Yeah.
the pros and cons and all of that. So that the technology is doing that right now, but imagine later on where maybe you even have voice,
Yeah.
and I guess it's kind of like a text mentor, but it can become like
Yeah.
a mentor that's almost lifelike, I
Yeah.
guess, or
We we we
disembodied.
were we were having this debate in the office the other day about which sense it would go to next, and we were
Mhm.
talking. It's just because you mentioned voice, and we were sort of saying we felt that from a human resistance point of view, that the obvious next use is much more graphical and visual, just
Mhm.
because we felt that the voice bit may get a little bit scary, and there's no right or wrong answer. No doubt they'll both come if they haven't started to arrive already. But I'll see what you think about that in terms of visual versus voice. But also just to confirm what you said there. Yes, we're at ChatGPT version 4. But this is a couple of years into the journey. Just imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years. I totally agree. Yeah. So do you have a view, voice or viewing would be the next step in that journey?
I feel like voice. I don't know if you saw the demo that OpenAI did with the current version, which is
Yeah.
Omni. Yeah. So a lot of that was really voice.
Yeah.
And I feel like that that seems to be because many of us are already used to like the Siri, the Alexa. So I just feel like it's just basically making that more intelligent, right? So we're already sort of
Yeah.
used to conversing with Siri and
Yeah.
um and Alexa. So I think that voice is already here. It's just a matter of just making whatever we have just more intelligent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Maybe it's my Luddite side not wanting to speak to Siri. It's just getting a little bit close to home. I think it's fantastic that guide, that mentor, in terms of bringing us forward and dragging us forward in terms of, guiding us to the left or to the right, as it were. And like you said, when you're asking ChatGPT, maybe you're probing different personas and you're sort of asking for different ways to resolve a problem. And I think making that more dynamic is an obvious next step. So that's fantastic. I must go back to this other job of yours in terms of helping people get new roles.
Mhm.
Do you see a relationship there in terms of AI and the ability to get jobs, or is that too early? I don't know where you're at from that perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, AI is already influencing, job search. So, one one area like there's some job search platforms that use AI and they can apply to hundreds, if not sometimes they even say unlimited jobs per day.
Yeah,
No, not per week. So a lot of companies are being overwhelmed by all these applications, right? So, and many people on the job seeking side, they do get interviews for some of them. I mean, the conversion
yeah,
rate is pretty horrible, but some people are willing to make that trade-off. Okay, you just apply as many as possible, and I'm not going to really do anything, and then I'm going to wake up to a couple of interviews. Like for some people, that's a good trade-off. But there is a bit of a downside there because maybe you can get blacklisted by some companies because
yeah,
the AI will make mistakes. I think somebody talked about an experience where they just made up stuff. Like
yeah,
how in some applications where you need to tick like your demographic. I think she was an
yeah,
Asian, and then
yeah,
the AI said she was black. So
yeah,
there are all these things that that could go wrong.
yeah,
So that's one dimension. Well, I guess the technology might just get better as we go along, but I think that it's also symbolic of how broken the hiring process is, right? Because um, yeah, it just right now, a lot of people are applying for jobs. Like it takes some people have to apply for hundreds or if not thousands of jobs before they can even get through the door, right?
yeah,
And on the receiving end of the companies, it's like they get swamped and they can't even go through all the applications. So I don't know, it just seems like this is not a sustainable system that we don't want to carry the system,
yeah,
for the next decade. But anyway, putting that aside, I think another place that AI can help is just, like you mentioned as a mentor, just having that mentor or coach, whether
yeah,
it be, you doing mock interviews, right? So now, speaking of visual, I mean, AI, even part of, if you go back to the Omni, the Chat GPT demo that was done, it could
yeah,
also recognize the visual, right? So it can look at you and say, okay, I think one of the demo that was done was, oh, how do I look for my interview? And she suggested, maybe changing things up, right? So you can have an AI where you just do a video
yeah,
call, and then it can give you suggestions on, okay, your facial expression, your delivery, the content of your answers, and all of that. So that's also another area that
yeah,
I believe AI can help. Negotiation, like I mentioned, even when it comes to crafting a networking strategy, right? I know I've been using Perplexity AI, and it's kind of, it's kind of good in certain areas when it comes to search. Maybe you can ask for, okay, so I'm about to make a transition from this industry to another industry. Can you suggest maybe top 10 companies that I will
yeah,
stand a good chance of getting into. I mean, I don't want to go to the likes of, the top companies that everybody wants to go into, but I want to go to maybe second-rate companies where I stand a better chance of getting
Yeah.
in. Give me 10 companies and maybe a strategy to get into one of those companies, right? So these
Yeah.
are
No,
just some ideas.
I think that's great. There's quite a common parlance in the world of projects about, AI won't replace you. Somebody with AI skills will do.
Mm.
And obviously your examples there are about getting the jobs. I'm just thinking about the individual. Do you support that statement? Do you see that in your world, or is that just too early? So
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's still too early to tell. Um, I think that when you listen to thought leaders in this space, um, AGI is a lot of people say AGI is coming, number one, and a lot of people are a lot of people warn about us being careful about AGI, right? So these are
yeah,
thought leaders in this space, and I don't think you can just disregard their opinions, right? You need to take it seriously. So I think taking that seriously. I mean, there is risk that that it would replace some people's jobs, right? Because I mean, right now I don't know what I don't know what AGI is capable of, right? And
yeah.
I don't think many of us know what AGI is capable of, right? So
Mm.
just I think that that's something that we shouldn't just sweep under the rug, right? But I'm also an optimist, and I also believe that human beings we would always um there would always be space for us. Like you can't really quite replace that human to human connection, right? For
Mm, mm,
example,
mm, mm, mm,
just connecting with somebody just because just based on a story. I don't
mm,
think
mm.
an AI will be able to do the same, right? I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and just sharing my stories, I get a lot of feedback. People saying, "Oh, this resonated with me," so I don't believe that we're gonna get that level of connection from AI. I could be
Yeah,
wrong. Also just inspiring, people, or people just looking at you as a role model, or you seeing somebody else as. So I think there are all these things that are that are intangible, but yet very, very fundamental to our experience as human beings. And I don't think AI can take that. So I think that that's so just to go back to that parlance, that statement that somebody with AI will take your job. I think that there is truth to that. In that, yes, you have somebody who can really wrangle the technology, and the person who's also good at, I guess, the human to human component. I'm not sure if that made sense, but yeah,
yeah.
I'm
No,
an
no,
optimist. I don't
exactly.
think the human is going to be taken out of the loop. I think that the person who can use the technology will be.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. You said a couple of times there that you're an optimist. I'm an optimist as well, but as part of these conversations, I do want to sort of see what your view of the negative side of AI is as well. I mean, what's your view? Are we, you're obviously not saying we're going to be all doomed, as it were, but you might have touched on the ethical side, but what's your view of the negatives here?
I mean, I think that bad actors can use the technology. I mean, you have all these open source models that are available, and they're pretty good, right? So, I mean, you have the world of cybercrime, right? You have people that and these things don't go away, right? There's a reason why cybersecurity is a really hot field right now, because you need people to fight cybercrime. So I think that it could be, all the way from like deep fakes impersonating people to just figuring out ways to um, defraud people, figuring out ways to maybe hack into systems. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with the world of cybercrime, but I I remember coming across a news article whereby like some of these people are using AI to come up with very sophisticated malware, right? So it's like you're just leaving the thing to become as creative,
Mhm.
and so I think that there are obviously very dark use cases for AI. I mean, just besides
Yeah,
besides the
I was thinking more in the project management sphere in terms of, what we need to watch out for around AI and project management, and we touched on the job displacement piece, but is there anything else, or is it all about, your administration, your grunt level that's going to make us easier, as it were? Is there anything that's scaring? I'm not sure.
well, I thinking about it, I don't nothing comes to mind in terms of yeah, I think the real big thing is job job displacement. That's a risk, either job displacement or,
Yeah.
well, I mean, speaking of negative, I guess it is job displacement, but I can't quite think of
Yeah,
um
I think just going back to what you said about, this guide, this mentor, I guess, and then linking that with what you said about security, there could be a
mm,
risk there that the AI
yeah,
mentor is taking you down the wrong route,
that's true.
without being completely alarmist. Maybe it's just, on a
Mhm.
particular project, it's giving you wrong advice or, wrong
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so I mean, imagine, some AI model that where there's a motive or there is some sort of sinister agenda behind the scenes, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
or because right now, like a lot of, I mean, I think about this, right? Like for any little question, I go on ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
ChatGPT will can have a very good sense of who I am as a human being, and if somebody wanted to use that to manipulate and influence me, I mean, yeah, I mean, it can just happen, you know, gradually, right?
Yeah.
Just having a good psychological profile of me. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty powerful technology that can be used in dark ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, both you and I, as optimists, that world won't play out, and it will be, a rapid way for us to get to the super intelligent level. So I'm just going to wrap up now, if I may. If there was a sort of conclusion or a takeaway that you wanted people to reflect that your views, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, just being an optimist, I think that we should embrace technology, but we should embrace it cautiously. Yeah, and I think that, just in terms of like maybe adopting AI within the company, or maybe even within the project management space, I would say it, it's better to look for the low hanging fruits. Like that would be my advice. So like, things that are annoying to you that you just would wish it will go away, like that grunt work level, just looking at, what you can do to help, that technology can help with. And then also just taking things one step at a time. Like, if it's okay, this is going to be like a 6 week pilot or a 3 month pilot, as opposed to trying to boil the ocean. So I would say that would be my advice, because I think a lot of times we get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So just really looking at some of the low hanging fruits. What are some of the very annoying pain points that you have that you can just maybe tinker, see if AI can help with. So that would be my advice.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mukhtar. It's been really interesting, and I've particularly enjoyed the conversation about the mentor end of things and the AGI type of things, because I think, it is coming more rapidly than perhaps we consider. So thank you once again, sir, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.